All right, so monsters historically, they were threatening and external to human civilization. Over time, they became more human, more internal, more harmless. Today, monsters are portrayed as parents and lovers and friends, entirely benevolent and entirely internal. Yeah. A violent society places monsters outside, but that is not enough. If the monsters are not also dangerous, your kid will go make friends with one and ride it into your home. Is there a way to refang monsters without catastrophe? I mean, I think that it's inevitable. I think that for sure right now there's an extreme because we are so obsessed with marginal, and so because we're so obsessed with equality, we end up actually destroy, or we end up actually affecting the very struggle of the very structure of how monsters appear to us. Sesame Street, I've talked about this in several talks. You can check out my talks on the Pentecost of the Zombie Apocalypse, which will be featured by 2 more V's on Halloween. um, but the monster will always return. The monster will always return, even if you try to suppress it. And then you just have to pay attention. You just have to pay attention to the way that people who love monsters speak, and you'll catch them. You'll catch them talking about monsters. You'll catch them talking about the dangerous stranger, one way or the other. Those that are not like us. And if it's a super if it's like a super lefty, extremely open person, they're scared of right-wing people. The image of the okay, here's a left-wing monster if you want one, and it's a very common one. The inbred hick from the bayou, right? Now that's a left-wing monster. That's the monster of people who are open to everything. And the inbred hick is exactly a monster in the sense that the idea of the inbred person who becomes a kind of monster because the levels of causality, which are normal between couples and a man and a woman and a society, are broken, then but it's like a left-wing monster, because it's like it's a too close, how can I say this? It's a right-wing disease. To be inbred would be like a right-wing disease. It's like you're keeping things too close. You're holding things too tight. You're not willing to go outside of the tribe enough. And so that's what creates the inbred hick monster. But it's still a monster because it's still a breakdown in causality. There are breakdowns in causality that are, let's say, relationships with things that are too far. The idea of the foreign woman that you find in scripture, the idea of the woman whose feet go down to death that Solomon talks about in the Proverbs. This idea of angels having relationships with fallen men, like this too far, but there's also a too close. And that's why there are all these I talked about the sins of purity that you find in scripture. There's a few places where you find these sins of purity, and incest seems to be one, but it also breaks down the normal causality between the opposites, right? And so always remember that there are different kinds. Monsters will always return. You cannot avoid them.